They want to hide their secrets, and I just love digging away to find out what they don't want us to know.
You've probably seen the headlines. You've maybe rolled your eyes.
We hear the word bombshell and...
But what if I told you that this time the rumors swirling around Meghan Markle and Prince Harry aren't just internet gossip, they might be something far more nuclear.
I think certainly it's true in this case.
We're talking leaked flight logs, sealed medical records, a mystery businessman from Colombia, and the one thing the royal family can't afford to mess with, paternity. And if you think this is just another TikTok conspiracy, think again. Because one man, Tom Bower, isn't throwing shade. He's dropping receipts, the kind of receipts that make palaces panic. But before we even get to that picture, you need to understand how this whole royal fairy tale started unraveling from the inside out.
Up in California to spread wellness and love and sincerity have done the exact opposite. They have dumped on their family.
When Harry and Meghan packed up their crowns and fled the stiff upper lip of Buckingham for the sunshine of Santa Barbara, they promised a new era: wellness, authenticity, chicken coops, and California dreams. But behind those curated Netflix montages and $100 million deals was a carefully managed brand, a narrative where they were the misunderstood heroes, escaping the villainous grasp of the firm. And for a while it worked. Public sympathy, explosive interviews, and Oprah nodding solemnly were all in their favor. But here's the thing about building your image on honesty and hurt. The second a crack appears, people start looking real close.
And that ridiculous story about how they first met, the whole thing was a tissue of inaccuracies, to be polite.
Enter Tom Bower, investigative juggernaut, best-selling author, and if this story is to be believed, the guy currently holding the match above the royal powder keg. Now, this isn't Bower's first rodeo. The man is known for playing the long game. He doesn't gossip. He watches. He waits. And when the moment's right, he lights the fuse. In his upcoming book and newly launched podcast series, Bower claims he's not just spinning rumors. He's sitting on evidence, documents, timelines, witnesses, records that, according to him, could dismantle the Sussex brand in a single stroke. You see, what he's teasing isn't just scandalous, it's existential. Because once you start poking at the lineage of a royal child, you're not playing tabloid games anymore. You're playing with crowns, inheritance, bloodlines, stuff the monarchy literally can't afford to be wrong about. And here's where it gets next level chilling.
Hi, congratulations. Thanks for taking the time out. I know you guys must be really, really busy, but
When Harry allegedly caught wind of what Bower was about to release, his response wasn't confidence, it was full-blown panic. Phones were reportedly thrown, legal threats fired off like warning shots, advisors frozen out. But the one move that would have shut the whole thing down in a heartbeat? A DNA test? That's right, the smoking gun that would prove everything or nothing. And yet, it never came. Not from Harry, not from Meghan, not even a whisper of it from their famously media-savvy PR squad. Just denial, outrage, and silence. Which, as Tom Bower is smart enough to know, is gasoline on the fire of public suspicion. Because in Hollywood and Kensington alike, innocent people don't fear verification, they welcome it. And that's just the beginning. Because what Tom Bower dropped next wasn't wild speculation or anonymous hearsay. It was the kind of surgical implication that could dismantle a dynasty.
Blockbuster book. I've been reveling in your extracts. Very juicy stuff.
He pointed not just to Meghan's past, but to one night in one hotel hallway involving a man whose name had never appeared in mainstream coverage until now. A businessman from Colombia with connections you're not going to believe. And a bracelet that might as well be a neon arrow pointing at the world's most dangerous what if. You probably think this is where the story ends. You're wrong. Here's where it gets really messy. Just as the Sussex PR machine was preparing their next round of influencer-approved footage, the floor dropped out. One midnight upload. No context, no warning. Just a ghost account on X, formerly Twitter, with one image, one sentence, and one silent detonation across every tabloid, subreddit, and burner phone in Hollywood. The post read, "Everyone thinks they know nothing at all." And the photo, Meghan Markle, luxury hotel hallway, her body angled toward a man very clearly not Prince Harry. It wasn't blurry, it wasn't vague, it was intimate.
It says he interviewed more than 80 sources for the unofficial biography, but it was...
The lighting was warm, the kind of filtered golden glow you can only get at five-star resorts, where guests sign NDAs instead of check-in forms. And the man, not royal, not British, not ginger. He was athletic, broad-shouldered, dressed like money, not old money, but new money, tech money, Colombian money. His hand was around Meghan's waist in a way that wasn't brotherly, wasn't friendly, wasn't even ambiguous. It was claiming. And here's where the internet went feral, zooming, cropping, enhancing shadows like they were in a CIA bunker. And what did they find? That bracelet, leather with a metal cross, the same bracelet worn by a Colombian businessman who had appeared months earlier in promotional footage for a supposedly unrelated charity initiative involving Meghan. The image spread like wildfire. TikTok had it stitched into every reaction video within hours. Reddit had timelines up before the sun rose. And just like that, the theory that once sounded tinfoil became coherent. Because now there was a pattern. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it.
It's where I felt closest to my mother and sought solace after she died, and where I knew I had found us.
Dates, flights, gaps in public appearances, discrepancies in Meghan's pregnancy timeline that royal watchers had flagged before but were now re-examined with obsessive precision. And remember how no one ever saw Meghan leaving the hospital? How there were no named doctors, no timestamps? Suddenly, all of that wasn't just odd, it was evidence. But wait, there's more. Because just when the speculation hit peak frenzy, Tom Bower stepped in like he was orchestrating the whole thing. Calm, measured, deadly. He dropped a single line on his official channels. Some stories don't disappear when you delete them. They disappear when the truth is proven. This one hasn't been. No emojis, no hashtags, no screaming in all caps. Just a man who knew he was holding dynamite and was willing to light it one match at a time. Then he dropped the line that cracked the internet in half. The firstborn child may not belong to the man the public believes. He didn't say Archie. He didn't say Harry. He didn't have to. The panic was instant, and the reaction from Camp Sussex was as loud as it was telling. Legal threats, private calls to journalists, angry messages sent through intermediaries. But again, the move that would have ended this in 1 second? Still off the table. No DNA test. And that's when the real bombshell dropped, because Tom Bower wasn't done hinting. He was about to deliver a name the public hadn't heard in over a decade.
Prince Harry are sharing a peek at life in California with little Archie.
Trevor Engelson, Meghan's ex-husband, the man airbrushed out of the fairy tale. And guess what? He was finally ready to talk. When the teaser for episode 2 dropped, the tone shifted from gossip to something colder, sharper, and way more dangerous. No music, no dramatic buildup, just Tom Bower clearing his throat like a man about to read a verdict. Tonight, he said, I'm not speaking to an anonymous source. Pause, long enough to make people hold their breath. I'm speaking to a man who lived this. And then a voice the internet hadn't heard, connected to this story before slid into millions of earbuds at once. Trevor Engelson, not angry, not dramatic, just exhausted. The kind of tired that comes from watching the world cheer a fairy tale you know has termites in the walls. Trevor didn't start with accusations, he started with context. The early marriage, the ambition, the way doors opening in Hollywood slowly changed Meghan's orbit, her priorities, her secrecy. Late nights became normal. International contacts appeared without explanation. And then he described that night, the hotel, the hallway, the smell of disinfectant and burnt coffee, the elevator doors closing behind him. He said he wasn't looking for a fight, he just wanted clarity. What he got instead was a man exiting the room his wife claimed she was alone in. A man with an accent he didn't recognize. A man confident enough not to flinch. Trevor's voice wavered when he described Meghan's reaction. Not guilt, not shock, calculation. The kind of instant recalibration you see in people already planning their next move. She didn't deny it, he said quietly. She reframed it. That single phrase lit the internet on fire. Reframed it. According to Trevor, she called it networking. Opportunity, something he wouldn't understand because he didn't think big enough. The affair, if you believe this account, wasn't emotional. It was strategic, and then came the line that made listeners physically sit up in their chairs. She told me this was the kind of man who changes lives. Tom Bower didn't interrupt. He let the silence stretch, knowing listeners were connecting dots they didn't want to connect. Trevor said the marriage didn't end because of one incident, but because trust collapsed completely. Years later, when he saw Meghan's Columbia connections resurface during her royal era, something clicked in a way that made his stomach turn. I started wondering, he admitted, whether some stories don't end when you think they do. The fallout was immediate and volcanic. Clips ripped from the podcast flooded every platform within minutes. TikTok stitched reactions like it was a global group chat. Reddit threads ballooned into tens of thousands of comments overnight. And one question drowned out all others. If this is all lies, why not end it instantly? Again, the DNA test. Behind closed doors, according to this account, Prince Harry wasn't raging, he was unraveling. Friends noticed his voice shaking on calls, his temper flaring unpredictably, his fixation on comment sections he swore he wasn't reading. He was reading all of it. The worst part wasn't Trevor's story, it was the timelines. Internet sleuths lined up dates with ruthless precision. The Colombia trip, the Australia tour, the shifting pregnancy announcement, the absence of medical specifics, individually each detail could be explained away. Together, they formed something that looked disturbingly like intent, and for the first time, Harry started asking questions he had never allowed himself to ask before. About dates, about doctors, about why everything surrounding Archie's birth felt so tightly controlled. And somewhere inside that curated California mansion, doubt began doing what it does best. It dug in and refused to leave. Hold up, this is where it gets insane. Because the moment Harry voiced the unthinkable, why won't you just do the test? Everything shifted. According to this account, Meghan didn't scream. She didn't cry. She went still. And then came the pivot, as fast and calculated as flipping a chessboard mid-match. How dare you? Those 3 words cut the air like glass. She accused him of betrayal, of parroting palace paranoia, of feeding into the same media machine that had nearly broken her. After everything I've endured for you, for this family, she snapped, you're siding with them? Them, meaning the royals, the press, Tom Bower, anyone who dared question the narrative. But Harry didn't flinch this time. According to the source, he shouted back, raw, unfiltered, no longer a rehearsed prince, but a man cracking under the weight of suspicion. This isn't about them. This is about me not knowing if my son is actually mine. That line, right there, was the tectonic shift. Because if even Harry, the man who burned bridges for love, who exiled himself from a kingdom, who fought tooth and nail to protect his wife's image, if he was questioning the one foundational truth of their entire fairy tale, that wasn't tabloid bait anymore. That was Shakespearean. That was monarchy ending. Meghan, according to the account, responded not with clarity, but with a warning. If you force this, she whispered, you destroy us. Not if you're wrong, not if it's a lie, just if you force this, no denial, no proof, just a threat wrapped in heartbreak and calculation. Harry reportedly left the room without another word, and outside, the internet was already miles ahead of the royals' damage control. Because as episode 3 was teased, a new layer emerged, one that turned the scandal from personal crisis to institutional meltdown. A former palace staffer posting anonymously claimed that the delay in Archie's royal titles wasn't about race or tradition, it was about unresolved documentation concerns. Another insider posted that meetings were held behind closed doors, unprecedented in modern royal history. No names, no confirmation. But the effect was nuclear. Buckingham Palace stayed silent, and in that silence, the void filled with speculation, screenshots, excerpts, video breakdowns. And Tom Bower, ever the surgical saboteur, kept to his one mantra: innocent people don't fear verification. He didn't need to say more, because now the court of public opinion had shifted. The question was no longer, is it true? It had become, why won't they prove it's not? And while Meghan doubled down on wellness branding and corporate partnerships, Harry was reportedly spiraling behind the scenes. According to insiders, his mood darkened. Calls went unanswered. His presence at public events grew more stiff, more distant. And the worst part, every time he looked at his son, the question wouldn't leave, not because he wanted to doubt, but because now he couldn't not. And doubt, once it takes root, doesn't need confirmation, it just needs time. In royal history, scandals come and go. But this wasn't just scandal, it was succession-level sabotage. And all it needed was one more match, one more reveal, to burn everything down. By the time episode 3 officially dropped, the world wasn't listening for gossip anymore. They were waiting for collapse. And Tom Bower, calm as ever, didn't rush. He didn't need pyrotechnics or dramatic scores. He opened with a whisper, what you're about to hear is not speculation. It's what they didn't want verified. And with that, the final act began. This episode didn't rely on anonymous sources or shadowy insiders. It brought receipts. Bower laid out a timeline of medical anomalies surrounding Archie's birth that broke every royal precedent. No official hospital record, no attending physician on public file. A suspiciously vague announcement made after an already suspicious gap in Meghan's public appearances. No traditional photo op, no visible postnatal timeline. Instead, just a smiling Sussex couple walking a newborn into a heavily controlled press moment with 0 identifiers. Then came the document trail. Flight logs, travel clearances, a private charity trip to Colombia that, according to Bower, overlapped too perfectly with a private period of Meghan's pregnancy. The kicker? A briefcase left behind in a California villa after a celebrity-heavy event hosted by wellness mogul Victoria Jackson. The contents? A high-res print of the hallway image, clearer than what had leaked online. A frame-by-frame breakdown that matched the man's wrist, bracelet, and even watch face to known appearances by the Colombian businessman now swirling at the center of this scandal. All circumstantial? Sure. But together? Devastating. And for a monarchy obsessed with image, tradition, and most of all, certainty, this wasn't just an embarrassment. It was an existential threat. Harry, according to multiple behind-the-scenes reports, was now completely isolated, his team in disarray, advisors unsure how to proceed, and the question looming over every step he took: what if this whole war, the Megxit, the memoirs, the exile, was built on a foundation he never confirmed? Meghan reportedly tried to rally their circle, reinforcing loyalty, reminding everyone of what they had survived. But her tone, say those close to the chaos, had changed. Less confident, more brittle. Because belief, not fact, had taken hold. And belief is a wildfire. You don't need to prove anything once the world believes there's something to hide. You just need silence. And the Sussex camp? Deafeningly silent. Still no DNA test, still no firm denial, just vague outrage and veiled threats of legal action. And now, the consequences are snowballing. According to insider chatter, major media contracts are suddenly under review. Brands that once clung to Meghan's image as a feminist icon and Hollywood royalty are allegedly rethinking endorsements. Behind palace walls, officials are holding meetings so secretive that staff aren't allowed to bring phones inside. And the public? They've turned from curiosity to obsession. Fan theories are evolving into multi-hour exposés. Legal experts are weighing in. Even other royals are reportedly distancing themselves, because if the implication becomes accepted truth, it changes everything. Not just titles and inheritance, but history, legacy, the very idea of who belongs. So, where does this leave Harry? Alone in a California estate that now feels less like a sanctuary and more like a castle made of glass. The rebellion he led, the crown he rejected, the family he abandoned, all might have been sacrifices for a story that never got the full truth check. And once that kind of doubt takes root, it doesn't matter what's real. It only matters what people believe. And the belief now? That something's off. That something's been off for a long, long time. The final twist? We still don't know what Tom Bauer hasn't released. He promised 4 episodes, and if the first 3 set the world on fire, episode 4 might just burn the whole institution to the ground. So the question isn't, will the truth come out? The question is, what happens when it does?